The human heart, in its intricate dance between pride and love, often chooses paths that lead to unforeseen consequences. Sometimes it takes a seismic jolt, a sudden blinding moment of crisis, to strip away the carefully constructed facades we wear and reveal the raw, vulnerable truth of our existence. Imagine, if you will, a bustling city street, the cacophony of horns, the whir of engines, the endless stream of humanity rushing past. Now picture a lone figure, a woman, sightless, stepping into this chaotic symphony, her white cane lost, her world on the brink of being silenced forever. That profound moment of peril, a heartbeat away from tragedy, serves as our entry point into a narrative that explores the profound costs of generational pride, the redemptive power of unexpected connections, and the transformative potential of a second chance. This isn't just a story about a blind woman nearly hit by a car. It's a deep dive into the echoes of past mistakes, the quiet strength of resilience, and the tumultuous journey toward family and forgiveness. It's a testament to how the most unlikely heroes can emerge from the shadows, how dormant truths can ignite change, and how a community's unwavering support can become the very foundation upon which a shattered dynasty begins to rebuild. So prepare to unravel a tale where the stakes are not merely financial or reputational, but deeply, irrevocably human, challenging us to look beyond the surface and truly see what it means to be connected. The scene opens with an almost jarring abruptness, a sudden explosion of sound and danger that immediately grabs your attention. Honk! Honk! The piercing cry of car horns, tires screeching, a scent of burning rubber hanging heavy in the air. It's the soundtrack of imminent disaster. In the midst of this urban chaos, a blind woman, Miss Carter, steps off the curb, directly into the surging traffic. This isn't just a misstep, it's a full-blown crisis unfolding in real time. Cars swerve wildly, engines roar in protest, and the entire city, it seems, holds its breath, collectively gasping at the sight of her frozen, utterly vulnerable, in the heart of the street. It's a moment of sheer terror, not just for her, but for anyone witnessing it, the kind of helplessness that binds strangers in shared alarm. Her white cane, her lifeline slips from her grasp, clattering to the asphalt, leaving her utterly exposed, disoriented, and seconds away from an unthinkable fate. It's a visceral depiction of life's fragility, a stark reminder of how quickly control can be lost, how close we often are to moments that irrevocably alter our existence. The absence of sight in this scenario becomes a profound metaphor for being lost, not just physically, but perhaps in a deeper, more existential sense. But then, a ripple of hope. 3 young voices shatter the tension, crying out, "Grandma, watch out!" A primal, instinctual alarm. 3 children, tiny blurs of motion, burst from the sidewalk. Their legs pump with an almost superhuman urgency, braids bouncing, sneakers slapping against the pavement in a frantic rhythm. This isn't just speed, it's an outpouring of pure, unadulterated love and courage. Zoe, with a fierce determination, grabs the woman's trembling hand. Zion, all small but mighty, throws his arms around her waist, pulling her back from the precipice of danger. Zane, face tight with a fear that mirrors the city's, pushes at her side, a silent plea for her safety. Together, these 7-year-old triplets form an unlikely shield, their small bodies a fragile but potent barrier against the rushing steel and indifferent speed of the traffic. They protect her, a testament to an instinctual, unwavering bond, until the traffic light mercifully shifts to red and the immediate danger passes. It's a moment of breathtaking heroism, a vivid illustration of how sometimes the smallest among us can possess the greatest courage. Once on the relative safety of the sidewalk, the raw aftermath of the near tragedy unfolds. The woman's chest heaves with sharp, ragged gasps, her body absorbing the shock. She sinks to her knees, the tears that have been pressing against her glasses now spilling, hot and uncontrollable. It's a release, a visceral expression of both terror and profound relief. Her hands, still trembling, search blindly for the little heroes who have just saved her life. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice barely audible, a fragile thread of gratitude in the quiet aftermath. Her trembling fingers graze Zoe's cheek, and beneath her touch, she feels a deep dimple. A gasp escapes her lips. This isn't just a touch, it's a reawakening. Her hand moves to Zion's face, and there it is, the crescent-shaped birthmark burned into his temple, an undeniable echo of a mark her late husband carried. The shock is profound, almost spiritual. Her lips part, her voice cracking with a disbelief that borders on the miraculous. These dimples, that mark, oh Lord, my grandbabies. It's a revelation, a recognition that transcends the physical absence of sight, a truth felt in the very marrow of her bones. The tallest girl, Zoe, steps forward, her young voice brimming with pride. "We're the Roberts triplets. Mama's cooking over there at the Soul and Spice food truck." She points across the street toward a teal-painted truck bustling with customers, a vibrant hub of life and flavor. At the mention of the name Nia Roberts, the woman freezes. The name is a direct hit, a painful memory dredged up from 7 years past. Nia Roberts, the young woman her son, Malik, had abandoned. The young woman she herself had driven away with her own cold pride, her own rigid judgments. This wasn't just a simple act of charity from strangers, it was a confrontation with her own history, a karmic mirror reflecting the consequences of her past actions. The irony is stark. The children she rejected, the family she drove away, have now become her saviors. Just as this profound realization begins to settle, a horn blares again, a car swerving too close to the curb, a jarring reminder of the city's unforgiving nature. "Look out!" Zoe shouts, instinctively yanking the woman back just in time, but the sudden jolt sends her white cane clattering to the ground once more. Zane, ever quick and observant, darts down, scoops it up, and presses it into her palm with both hands, a gesture of almost regal tenderness. "Here, Mom. You drop this?" His wide, innocent brown eyes look up at her, treating her like royalty, utterly unaware of the storm brewing within her. It's an act of pure, unadulterated kindness that cuts through Evelyn's carefully constructed world of power and prestige. A tall man in a sharp suit, slightly out of breath, rushes up. "Miss Carter, your car is waiting." He extends a sleek business card toward the children, his voice brisk and polished, a stark contrast to the raw emotion of the moment. This is Evelyn's world, the world of power and efficiency, encroaching on this fragile, rediscovered connection. But before Zoe can reach for the card, Zion, with an unexpected shyness, steps forward. He slips a crumpled napkin into the woman's hand. On it, 3 scribbled stars and a crooked heart are drawn in purple marker, a child's simple, profound offering. She clutches it like it's pure gold, her breath shaky, her body trembling with a truth she can no longer ignore, a truth far more valuable than any business card. It's a silent vow, a tangible symbol of their innocent love and her profound awakening. The children, their laughter bright and carefree, skip toward the teal food truck, their voices rising above the rush of city traffic. The sound is a beacon, a siren song pulling Evelyn forward. She lifts her face toward the sound of a voice calling out orders, strong, familiar, unforgettable. Her lips quiver as she whispers, "What have I done?" The words are less a question and more a lament, a profound realization of the depth of her past mistakes. "Order up," Naya calls, sliding a tray of fried catfish through the food truck window. Her voice, carrying across the crowd, is a clear, ringing bell that Evelyn Carter recognizes instantly. That voice, familiar, sharp, unforgettable. It's the voice of a past she deliberately buried, a history she tried to erase. Evelyn taps her cane forward, the tip striking the truck's metal siding, a physical confirmation of her destination. Her fingers tremble as she traces the embossed letters painted on its side. Soul and Spice. She gasps. From inside, Nia turns, her eyes narrowing as she sees the figure before her. Evelyn Carter, Nia says, her tone steady but edged with ice, cutting through the lunchtime buzz. The line of customers falls silent, the tension palpable. Nia, Evelyn whispers, her voice a fragile thing. I didn't know it was you. I didn't know those children. Her voice breaks, shame and regret finally overpowering her carefully guarded composure. I was wrong about everything. I turned my back on my own blood. Please forgive me. The plea is raw, stripped bare of all pride and power. But Nia steps closer, folding her arms, her jaw tightening. Her voice, however, doesn't waver. Forgiveness? You pushed me out when I needed help most. You let your son walk away and you locked the door behind him. Don't come here talking about forgiveness now. Her words are sharp, justified, and utterly devastating. Evelyn reaches out across the counter, her hand brushing air, a futile gesture. Let me help you. The Carter Foundation could provide support, stability, anything those kids need. It's an offer of restitution, but perhaps still steeped in the language of transactional power. Nia's lips curl into a bitter smile. Support, stability. Don't dress it up, Evelyn. My children are not a PR bandage for your empire. We don't need hush money. Her pride is fierce, her independence unyielding, a stark contrast to Evelyn's past attempts to control with wealth. Just then, a shout rips through the street. Zion, watch out! A scooter veers off the curb, barreling toward the smallest triplet. Evelyn, without a moment's hesitation, lunges, her arms wrapping around the boy, yanking him back. The scooter skids past, the rider cursing before speeding off, oblivious to the near tragedy they've caused. Zion clings to her trembling hand, wide-eyed, his small body shaking. For a breathless second, everything stills, the world holding its breath. Then a click shatters the silence. A man across the street lifts his camera, snapping shots rapidly. Blind mogul meets secret family, he mutters, a predatory grin on his face as he hurries off, already anticipating the headline. Nia's stomach drops. Evelyn straightens, her cane shaking in her grip. She can already imagine the headline, Carter Dynasty's Hidden Heirs. The aide, ever practical, tugs at her elbow, whispering, Miss Carter, we need to leave now before this spreads. But Evelyn doesn't move, her lips pressed tight. She pulls her phone from her coat pocket. With fumbling hands, she dials a number burned into her memory. The line rings once, then a deep voice answers, Mother. Her throat closes, still shaking. Evelyn forces the words out. We need to talk about Nia. A cold silence fills the line, then a click. The conversation is over, but the war has just begun. Reporters swarm the sidewalk outside Carter Tech, cameras flashing like lightning, a blinding, relentless assault. Mr. Carter, is it true? Headlines are already everywhere. Carter Dynasty's hidden heirs. Blind mogul saved by triplets, secret grandkids. Malek Carter shoves past them, jaw tight, refusing to answer. His silence only fuels the storm, confirming in the media's eyes that there's something to hide. Inside the glass tower, Victoria Price waits in the boardroom. She is sleek, sharp, cold as ice, a formidable gatekeeper of the Carter Empire. She taps her tablet, projecting images of gossip blogs across the screen, a visual representation of the chaos unfolding. This is dangerous, Malek, she says smoothly, her voice a silk-lined threat. Your reputation, the company, everything's on fire. You need to control the narrative. Malek snaps, his hand tightening on the polished table. There's nothing to control. They're not my children. Victoria's smirk is razor thin, a predatory gleam in her eyes. Then prove it. DNA test, press statement, custody if necessary. We spin it right. You become the hero, the father. We don't. And you look like a deadbeat who abandoned 3 kids. The word custody digs into his chest like a blade. He turns away, staring at the panoramic skyline, the vast city reduced to a distant, unfeeling backdrop. Set a meeting, he mutters, the words heavy with resignation. I'll see them today. The Soul and Spice food truck buzzes with lunchtime orders, a vibrant hum of life that dies the second Malik appears. He cuts through the crowd like a shadow, an expensive suit, an unreadable mask of a man. Nia freezes mid-order. Malik! Her voice is sharp, but her hands tremble on the counter, betraying the turmoil beneath her defiant exterior. Hello, Nia. His gaze slides past her to the 3 children at her side. The triplets stare back, wide-eyed, uncertain, their innocence a stark contrast to the weighty adult drama. Zoe instinctively tugs Zion closer, a protective gesture. Zane drops his inhaler, the small tube rolling across the pavement. Malik, in a surprising, almost automatic gesture, bends instantly, scoops it up and presses it into the boy's hand. Here, don't lose this. His voice is calm, but his hand shakes, betraying the crack in his controlled facade. Zane blinks up at him, confused by the stranger's sudden gentleness, an unexpected act of care. Why are you here? Nia demands, cutting through the moment. I want the truth, Malik says flatly, his words devoid of emotion. If they're mine, I need to know. And if they are. He swallows hard, the mask of indifference momentarily slipping. I'll make sure they're cared for. Cared for? Nia's laugh is sharp as glass, a bitter, painful sound. Where was that care when I was alone? When they were sick? When I worked double just to feed them? Before Malik can answer, Evelyn's cane taps against the sidewalk. She had followed him, drawn by an invisible thread of concern. Her voice trembles but cuts through the air, piercing the raw tension. Malik, don't do this. Don't weaponize those children the way I once weaponized you. His jaw flexes, his eyes stormy, a war raging within him. You don't get to tell me how to fix what you broke. The triplets look between them, confused, frightened, their small world suddenly filled with a disquieting adult anger. A hush falls over the crowd until a camera clicks again. A blogger grins, snapping photo after photo. Blind mogul, billionaire son, hidden family. Thistledown gasps rise around them as more phones lift, capturing the unfolding drama. Malik turns, fury flashing across his face. Enough, he barks, but the damage is done. The story is already out, irrevocably etched into the public consciousness. Victoria, standing just behind the crowd, doesn't look shaken. Instead, a faint, almost imperceptible smile plays on her lips. She presses her phone to her ear, her words crisp, clinical. Yes, start the custody paperwork. It's time to protect the brand. Her eyes meet Malik's for just a moment, cold and victorious. And though Evelyn begs, though Nia's voice breaks with anger and pain, Malik says nothing. His silence is answer enough, a chilling affirmation of the path he's chosen, a path that echoes his mother's past mistakes, prioritizing image and control over the fragile bonds of family. The pounding on the duplex door comes just as Nia is setting plates of cornbread on the table for the triplets, a domestic, comforting scene about to be shattered. Zoe races to the door, but Nia catches her first, a premonition of dread washing over her, and pulls it open herself. A man in a gray suit stands on the porch, clipboard in hand, an unwelcome harbinger of disruption. Miss Nia Roberts? Yes. He hands over a thick envelope. Notice of custody evaluation. You'll want to read that carefully. A court-appointed specialist will be contacting you shortly. Without another word, he turns on his heel and walks off, leaving dust and dread in his wake. Nia's stomach sinks, a cold wave of fear washing over her. Zoe tugs at her sleeve. Mama, what's wrong? Nothing, baby. Nia says quickly, tucking the ominous envelope on the counter, but her voice trembles, betraying the forced calmness. Zayn and Zion watch her with wide, worried eyes, their innocence vulnerable to the storm brewing around them. Later that afternoon, Evelyn Carter sits across from her son in the lobby of his Buckhead office tower. Her cane rests against her chair, her lips pressed tight, a symbol of her physical and emotional vulnerability. "Malik, listen to me," she says firmly, her voice imbued with the hard-won wisdom of experience. "Don't weaponize those babies. They are not a scandal to clean up. They are flesh and blood, your flesh and blood." Malik adjusts his cufflinks, his face a cold, impenetrable mask. "Mother, the damage is already done. If I don't take control, Victoria will. This is about survival." "Survival?" Evelyn snaps, anger cracking through her voice, her own past sins echoing in her words. "No, this is about fear. Don't repeat my sins. Don't let pride make you blind." But Malik rises, ending the conversation, his silence cutting deeper than any words could. His inability to see beyond the corporate imperative, to acknowledge the human cost, is a painful reflection of Evelyn's own past. The next morning, the Soul and Spice food truck is parked in its usual spot near Auburn Avenue, a familiar beacon of community. But the normalcy is short-lived. Two men in city uniforms arrive, clipboards in hand, their presence an immediate red flag. "Health inspection, anonymous complaint," one of them announces, stepping inside without waiting for Nia's permission, an act of calculated intimidation. "What complaint?" Nia demands, her voice sharp with indignation. "I keep this kitchen spotless." "Ma'am, we just follow up," the man says, scribbling on his form, his disinterest palpable. He opens the fridge, sniffs, and frowns dramatically, already primed to find fault. Could be a violation. But then, the community rallies. Pastor Renee appears from the line outside, arms crossed, her presence a formidable shield. Violation. I've eaten here every week. This woman runs a cleaner kitchen than most restaurants in Atlanta. Miss Laverne, the block's unofficial grandmother, adds her voice, a chorus of unwavering support. Soul and Spice feeds half this neighborhood when no one else will. Don't you dare put dirt on her name. The inspectors hesitate under the growing glare of the community crowd, their malicious intent momentarily checked. They finish their notes, but leave without shutting the truck down. Still, the damage is planted. The seed of doubt, the threat, has been delivered. Nia knows exactly who had pulled the strings. Victoria. It's a chilling reminder of how power can be wielded against the vulnerable, how corporate ruthlessness can seep into the most basic aspects of daily life. That night, after the kids are tucked in, Nia returns to the truck to restock supplies. The street is unusually quiet, the kind of silence that prickles the skin, a prelude to trouble. She reaches the vehicle and freezes. The front tires sag flat against the asphalt, slashed. A sour chemical smell wafts in the air. Gasoline. Her breath quickens, a rising tide of panic. She crouches, fingers brushing a damp patch beneath the truck. Her heart jumps into her throat. Someone had poured fuel. The crunch of a footstep makes her spin, but the alley is empty. A shadow disappears around the corner, a phantom threat. "Lord, protect my babies," she whispers, backing away, her fear a palpable entity in the lonely night. Then, a spark. It's faint, a glint near the rear wheel, but it ignites instantly, blooming into a terrifying inferno. Flames lick at the truck's underside, growing fast, consuming her livelihood, her future. Nia screams and grabs her phone. "Fire! Somebody call the fire department!" Windows above slam open. A neighbor shouts for help. Sirens wail in the distance, growing closer, but the flames are already crawling higher, threatening to swallow the teal-painted Soul and Spice whole. Nia's legs tremble, rooted to the spot. That truck wasn't just her business. It was her children's future, her independence, her very identity. The triplets' laughter, their drawings taped inside, the crumpled napkins Zion had given Evelyn, all of it flashes through her mind as the fire roars, a monstrous devourer of dreams. She can only stand frozen on the curb, helpless, as the flames dance higher into the Atlanta night, illuminating the brutal reality of a world that sometimes seeks to destroy what it cannot control. The smoke lingers long after the flames die, a choking reminder of the devastation. The fire trucks pull away, sirens fading into the distance, but the smell of char and gasoline clings to the night air, a lingering ghost. The teal food truck sits blackened at its base, scorch marks crawling up the panels like claw marks, a grotesque parody of its former vibrancy. Nia stands frozen on the curb, triplets clutching at her legs, their eyes wide and wet, reflecting the tragedy. Zoe buries her face in her mother's hip, muffling sobs, the profound loss too much for her young heart. Zane wheezes softly, clutching his inhaler, the smoke a cruel trigger for his asthma. Zion's small hands tremble in hers, his innocent confusion a silent torment. "It's gone, Mama," Zoe whispers, the words like tiny knives. Nia kneels and hugs them tight, blinking back tears, trying to be strong for them. "No, baby, not gone, just hurt. Like us, it'll heal." But inside, her heart twists. Soul and Spice was more than a truck. It was their future, their pride, their independence. Someone wanted it destroyed, a malicious act designed to break her spirit. Evelyn Carter's cane taps against the pavement as she approaches slowly, a beacon in the gloom. The glow from the street lamp catches the worry etched into her face, a raw vulnerability replacing her usual imperious mask. "Thanks be to God, y'all are safe," she murmurs, her voice thick with emotion. She reaches out, fingers grazing Zoe's braids before slipping down to squeeze Zion's shoulder, a gesture of genuine warmth. The aide beside her clears his throat, ever the practical one. "Miss Carter has arranged hotel suites for you and the children until things are repaired." Nia bristles, arms wrapping tighter around the triplets, her fierce independence flaring. "No, we're not running off to some fancy hotel. My babies need their own beds, their own routines." Evelyn bows her head, her voice softer, laced with an unfamiliar humility. "Then let me stay with you, just until it's safe again. I'll sleep in the guest room. No strings, no judgments, only presence." It's a surprising offer, an olive branch stripped of the usual Carter stipulations. Nia studies her, this proud billionaire woman, asking not to command, but to serve. The fire's smoke still curls from the truck behind them, a visible wound. Maybe, just maybe, there was room for mercy, for a tentative step towards healing. "You follow my rules," Nia says at last, her terms clear. "My house, my terms." Evelyn nods, a silent acceptance. "Yes, child, your house, your terms." It's a profound shift in their dynamic, a mutual respect slowly beginning to form. The duplex is small but warm, the scent of cornbread and cinnamon still clinging to the walls, a comforting aroma amidst the recent trauma. Evelyn settles into the guest room with her aide, her cane folded neatly at her bedside. For the first time in years, she listens to the small sounds of a family living, breathing, loving under one roof. The rustle of sheets, the soft murmur of children sleeping, the quiet rhythm of domesticity. It's a stark contrast to the sterile silence of her own mansion, a stark reminder of what she had pushed away. But peace doesn't last. By dawn, Zane is coughing hard, his chest rattling with each breath. The smoke residue from the fire has triggered his asthma, a cruel after-effect of the arson. Nia rushes to his side, patting his back, fumbling with the inhaler, panic cracking her voice. "It's not working!" A thunderous knock at the door sends a jolt through the house. Malik stands there, hair disheveled, tie askew, clutching a pediatric emergency kit, an unexpected apparition. He pushes past without waiting, dropping to his knees beside Zane, an instinct overriding all his carefully constructed defenses. "Give him space," Malik orders, his voice steady but urgent, his corporate efficiency suddenly repurposed for a desperate personal cause. He opens the kit, pulls out a nebulizer, and fits the mask gently over his son's small face. A soft mist hisses, filling Zane's lungs, a lifeline of air. Minutes crawl like hours until Zane's breathing eases, the ragged gasps are slowly replaced by a calmer rhythm. He leans back, eyelids drooping, his chest rising and falling in a more regular beat. Malik's hand trembles as it hovers above the boy's small shoulder, an unfamiliar tenderness in his touch. Nia's eyes lock on him, a mixture of shock and dawning wonder. "How did you know?" Malik swallows hard, the mask of ice slipping, revealing the raw emotion beneath. "Foundation clinics. We keep kits ready. I couldn't just—" His voice cracks, betraying the depth of his unspoken fear. "I couldn't let him suffer." The room goes silent except for Zane's steady breaths, the quiet hum of the nebulizer. Evelyn, standing in the doorway, presses her hand over her heart, witnessing a crack in her son's carefully guarded exterior. Nia's shoulders sag, the weight of years of resentment momentarily lifting. "You left me, Malik. Left us. But right now, you showed up." For the first time, his eyes soften, filled with a profound regret. "I wasn't ready. Not for you. Not for them. Fear made me a coward. Not hate. Never hate, Nia," he admits, his voice a raw confession. Nia turns away, blinking fast, fighting tears, the wound still too fresh. "Fear doesn't raise babies." "No," he admits, his head bowed. "But maybe I can learn to." It's a fragile olive branch, a tentative promise of a different future. That night, the triplets sleep piled together like kittens, exhausted from smoke and tears, their innocence a stark reminder of the battles being fought around them. In the living room, Evelyn sits stiffly on the sofa, hands folded, her presence a silent sentinel. "Child," she says softly, breaking the silence, her voice imbued with a newfound urgency. "The world is circling like vultures. The only way to shield these babies is proof, a DNA test, to end the whispers." Nia flinches, the suggestion a direct assault on her pride. "You think I need a piece of paper to prove I'm their mother?" "Not you, Nia," Evelyn replies, her tone gentle but firm. "Him, Malik. The press won't stop unless we give them a reason to, protect them with truth, not rumors." Nia's jaw clenches. She hates the thought, the indignity of it. But as she glances down the hallway, hearing Zane's soft, recovering breathing, she knows protection matters more than pride. "For them," she says finally, the words heavy with resignation and fierce love. "Not for you, not for him. For them." It's a powerful statement of selflessness, a mother's ultimate sacrifice. The next morning, Evelyn's aide opens the door to fetch the newspaper and freezes. Across the front page of a gossip blog is a grainy, zoomed-in photo. Zion's temple. The crescent-shaped birthmark, clear as day. The caption blares, "Proof, Carter's birthmark matches dynasty trait." Within hours, the story explodes online. Tweets, TikToks, bloggers, all asking the same question. Had the Carter Empire been hiding its heirs in plain sight? Inside the duplex, Nia's phone buzzes nonstop, an relentless assault of notifications. The triplets crowd close, confused by the flashing images on the screen, their innocent faces reflecting the swirling chaos. Evelyn sinks into the sofa, the world spinning around her, her worst fears realized. And Malik, standing in the corner, finally realizes this wasn't just scandal anymore. This was war, a public battle for the very soul of his family. The envelope sits heavy on the kitchen table, like it carries the weight of destiny itself. Nia has left it sealed all morning, her hands trembling every time she thinks to tear it open. The triplets are still in their pajamas, eating cereal, blissfully unaware that a few sheets of paper could change their lives forever. Malik stands against the wall, arms folded, trying to look calm, but his jaw clenches every time Zayn coughs or Zoe laughs or Zion asks another question, each sound a tiny pinprick of anxiety. Evelyn sits beside Nia, her cane leaning against the chair, her fingers trembling with anticipation. "Go on, child," Evelyn whispers, her voice a gentle push. "Open it." Nia swallows hard, her heart pounding. She slits the seal and pulls out the papers, scanning the bold lines, her throat closed, tears burning in her eyes. 999%, she whispers, the scientific certainty a profound relief. Malik Carter is the biological father. The room goes still. Zoe's spoon clinks against her bowl, the only sound breaking the silence. Zion tilts his head, confused. Zayn clutches his inhaler. "Daddy?" he asks softly, the single word slicing Malik like glass. He inhales sharply, blinking hard to steady himself, the full weight of fatherhood crashing down. He crouches down until he is eye level with the boy. "Yes," he whispers, his voice raw with emotion. "I'm your father." Zoe's eyes dart to Nia. "Mama?" Nia pulls all three of them close, her embrace a fortress of love. "Yes, babies, he is. But remember, he wasn't here before. He has to earn your trust." It's a statement of truth, a boundary set, a recognition that titles alone don't make a parent. Evelyn's tears spill freely, her own redemption unfolding. "And I am your grandma," she says, reaching out her trembling hands. Zoe steps forward, guiding her palm to her cheek. Evelyn traces the dimple she already knew by heart. Zion leans in so she can touch his temple, the crescent birthmark firm beneath her fingers. "My babies," she breathes, her voice thick with emotion. "My second chance." The past 7 years, the distance, the pain, all of it begins to melt away in the warmth of this rediscovered connection. Later that day, they barely make it down the street before reporters swarm, a hungry pack descending. Flashbulbs explode, microphones shoved forward, a relentless interrogation. "Miss Roberts, are these the Carter heirs?" "Malik, will you acknowledge paternity?" "Evelyn, is this the family you hid from the world?" The triplets cling to Nia's legs, shielding their faces, overwhelmed by the sudden onslaught. "Back up!" Nia shouts, her voice breaking, fierce and protective. "They're children!" Just as the crowd presses closer, Malik steps in front of them, his shoulders squared, a newfound resolve in his posture, his voice booming with authority. "They are my children, mine, and you will not treat them like headlines." The reporters gasp, questions tumbling over each other, momentarily stunned by his definitive claim. Evelyn's cane taps against the pavement as she moves forward, joining the protective front. "That's enough," she declares, her voice unwavering. "These babies are family. Respect them." For a brief moment, the crowd falls silent, hushed by the sheer force of their collective will. But the storm isn't finished. By evening, gossip sites explode with another narrative. Victoria Price's insidious handiwork. Gold digger chef strikes the Carter fortune. Food truck mama cashes in on secret heirs. Photos of Nia in her apron, sweaty from long hours at the grill, are plastered beside glossy shots of Malik in his tailored suits. The implication is clear. Nia is a schemer, a manipulative opportunist who raised children solely to force her way into billionaire wealth. Nia slams her phone onto the counter, her chest heaving with righteous anger. How dare she? I never wanted their money, I only wanted peace. Malik's face darkens, a simmering fury. Victoria won't stop. She thinks this is survival for the company. Evelyn's voice cuts through the tension, a beacon of clarity. Then we fight back with truth. Not with lawyers, with community. She leans forward, her sightless eyes burning with conviction. "Nia, Soul and Spice deserves a stage bigger than a sidewalk. Come run a pop-up at the Carter Foundation's community kitchen. Show the world what you do, who you are. Not a gold digger, a giver." Nia freezes, stunned by the unexpected offer. "You'd do that?" "I should have done it years ago," Evelyn whispers, her voice tinged with regret. "Let me help repair what I broke." For the first time, Nia nods, a tentative acceptance. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a significant step, a crack in the wall of resentment. Days later, Evelyn sits in a sterile consultation room, Malik at her side, a picture of quiet support. The specialist flips through her chart, his voice clinical. "Your corneal damage is extensive, but you qualify for a transplant. With surgery, there's a strong chance of partial vision restoration." Evelyn's heart hammers, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. She grips Malik's hand, her voice trembling with a hope she hadn't dared to entertain. "You mean I could see my babies?" "Not perfect sight," the doctor cautions gently, managing expectations, but enough to recognize faces, light, shapes. Tears spill down Evelyn's cheeks, a profound release. "Lord, thank you," she whispers, a prayer of gratitude. Malik's jaw tightens, hope flashing behind his eyes, a mirroring of his mother's emotion. "Do it, Mama, take the chance." Evelyn nods, resolute, the decision made. "Yes, I'll do it." But outside the clinic, trouble brews. A phone buzzes in Victoria's pocket. She opens the text with a sly, venomous smile. "Surgery date confirmed. Leaked schedule attached." She tucks the phone away, her eyes gleaming cold and calculating. By the time Evelyn and Malik leave the office, the story has already hit the blogs. Blind billionaire plans secret surgery. Exclusive date revealed. The family hadn't even made the decision public, but now the whole world knew. And somewhere in the shadows, someone was already planning to turn Evelyn's hope into another battlefield, another opportunity for sabotage. Sunday morning sunlight spills through stained glass windows, bathing the church sanctuary in warm reds and golds, a tranquil counterpoint to the impending storm. The triplets kneel on the front pew, carefully sticking glittery stars onto the white plastic eye shield their grandmother would wear after her transplant. "Grandma, you're going to sparkle," Zoe says proudly, pressing one last star in place, her innocence a precious balm. Evelyn laughs softly, though tears shimmer beneath her dark glasses, tears of gratitude. "Lord, I've worn diamonds, but none of them meant more than these stars from my babies." Behind them, the women of the church gather in a circle, laying gentle hands on Evelyn's shoulders, a communal embrace of support and prayer. Pastor Renee's voice rises in prayer, steady and strong, a spiritual anchor. "Father, give sight not only to her eyes, but to her heart. Heal the years pride has broken. Bind this family closer than blood." Evelyn's fingers tremble as she squeezes the triplets' hands. For the first time in years, she feels not like a mogul, not like a woman who had lost, but like a grandmother, loved, covered, forgiven. It's a profound shift, a quiet miracle unfolding within her. That afternoon, Malik and Nia sit at the worn wooden table in her duplex, papers spread between them, school calendars, activity lists, Deshawn's barbershop hours. The triplets are coloring quietly in the living room, but both parents keep glancing toward them, a shared focus on their children. "We need structure," Malik says firmly, jotting notes, his corporate instincts now channeled into a domestic purpose. "Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll pick them up from school. You'll handle Tuesdays and Thursdays. Fridays, we alternate." "And Sundays?" Nia asks, a hint of challenge in her voice. Malik's lips curve, almost smiling, a rare softening of his rigid features. "Sundays at Deshawn's shop, haircuts, chess lessons, barbershop wisdom, no negotiations." For the first time, Nia chuckles, a genuine, unforced sound. That I can agree on. The laughter fades quickly, but something softer lingers between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. A tentative step toward a shared future. Later that evening, Malik stops by his office to collect some files. As he sorts through an old storage box, a yellowed envelope slips out from between dusty folders. His name is written on the front in familiar handwriting. He tears it open. Inside is a letter dated 7 years ago. Malik, I don't know if you'll read this. I wanted you to know the babies are here. They're healthy, but I'm scared. I wish you'd come. I wish you'd see them. Please don't let pride keep you away. Nia. Malik sinks into his chair, the words blurring as guilt. A crushing, suffocating weight crashes over him. She tried, he whispers, the realization a raw wound. She reached for me, and I never even knew. He yanks open his laptop, diving into archived emails. His fingers fly across the keyboard, searching frantically. Then he finds it. A reroute filter created years ago. All messages from Nia Roberts had been diverted straight to a hidden folder. Hundreds of unread notes sit there, unseen, unheard. His chest tightens, a knot of agonizing regret. He remembers who had set up his system back then, Victoria Price. The full extent of her manipulation, her calculated cruelty, now becomes terrifyingly clear. Meanwhile, Victoria is moving her own chess pieces. In a sleek office downtown, she meets with 2 compliance lawyers. File the complaint, she orders coolly, her voice devoid of emotion. Allegations of misuse of foundation funds. Say Malik's diverting grants to his girlfriend's food business. That'll freeze his access until the inquiry clears. One lawyer hesitates, a flicker of ethical concern in his eyes. If this isn't true... Victoria's eyes cut sharp as glass, a chilling display of her ruthlessness. Truth doesn't matter. Optics do. By the time they sort it out, the damage will be irreversible. She leans back in her chair, satisfied, a predator reveling in her power. If Malik wants to play family man, I'll remind him who runs his empire. Back at the duplex, Malik returns late, shadows under his eyes. The weight of his discoveries heavy on him. Nia is tucking the triplets into bed when he steps into the hallway. I found something, he says quietly, his voice strained. A letter you wrote me. 7 years ago. I never saw it. Victoria, she intercepted everything. Emails, letters. She buried them. Nia's face hardens, pain flashing across her eyes. The depth of her past loneliness and struggle vividly replayed. So I was screaming into silence, and you thought I gave up? I thought you didn't want me in their lives, Malik admits, his voice breaking, the long-held misunderstanding finally unraveling. But it wasn't you, it was her. They stand there in heavy silence, only the sound of the triplets breathing filling the space, a fragile testament to the innocent lives caught in this web of deception. Evelyn's cane taps softly from the living room, as if she senses the truth falling like stones in the dark, another layer of her own past complicity revealed. Malik pulls out his phone, his jaw set, a new resolve hardening his features. His thumb hovers, then types. We talk tonight, M. He stares at the screen, then taps the record button on his phone's voice memo app. A red light blinks, a silent witness. Victoria wanted a war. Malik was finally ready to fight back, this time with evidence, with truth. Victoria Price sips her martini like it's victory itself. The rooftop lounge gleams with city lights, her laughter sharp as glass, a cruel, triumphant sound. You know what the fool never realized? She says to the man beside her, a smug confidant. 7 years ago, she wrote him letters, pleading, begging. I intercepted every one, moved them straight into a dead folder. He thought she didn't care. She thought he ignored her. And me? I got Malik Carter focused on empire, not diapers. Her companion chuckles nervously, sensing the dangerous edge to her confession. But Malik, seated at the bar, just out of view, doesn't laugh. His phone lies face down on the counter, its red light blinking, silently recording every damning word. Victoria leans back, satisfied, confident in her untouchable power. That's what real strategy is. You don't destroy your enemy. You erase their voice before they can even speak. Malik's jaw tightens, his knuckles whitening around his glass, an internal battle raging. He wants to storm across the room, to shout, to expose her then and there. But he stays still, the discipline of his corporate training now serving a different, more righteous purpose. The truth, captured on tape, is louder than rage. He ends the recording and walks out without a word, a silent, deadly promise of retribution. The retaliation comes fast. 2 mornings later, a sharp knock rattles Nia's front door. She wipes her hands on a dish towel and opens it to find a woman in a gray blazer, clipboard in hand. "Good morning. I'm with Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous report about possible neglect in this household. May I come in?" Nia's stomach drops, a cold dread washing over her. "Neglect? Who said that? That's a lie." The woman's tone is professional but firm. "Ma'am, we investigate every report. It's procedure." The triplets peek around the hallway, confusion in their eyes, their small faces mirroring their mother's distress. Zoe whispers, "Mama, who's that?" "Baby, go to your room," Nia says quickly, her voice trembling, trying to shield them from the encroaching threat. Just then, Deshaun steps inside from the porch, his barber's smock still on, his presence a sturdy, unexpected defense. "Ma'am," he says firmly, his voice resonating with authority, "this is a family that takes care of its own. You'll find clean beds, food on the table, and love in every corner of this house." The worker, taken aback by this unexpected community advocate, walks through the rooms, noting charts on the fridge, school schedules, doctor's notes, allergy reminders, all the meticulous care Nia has poured into her children's lives. She peeks into the kids' bedroom, neatly made with stuffed animals tucked against pillows, a testament to order and comfort. In the kitchen, a pot of collards simmers, the smell of comfort filling the air, a stark contradiction to the allegations. By the time she leaves, she offers a small nod. "Everything looks in order. Thank you for your cooperation." Nia exhales shakily, anger burning in her chest. Anonymous, my foot. That was her. Victoria. Evelyn, listening from the sofa, grips her cane tight, her blind eyes fixed on an unseen point. The devil always fights hardest before he falls. It's a chilling reminder that Victoria's reach extends far beyond the boardroom, seeking to unravel the very fabric of Nia's life. That evening, Malik arrives early, a mixture of determination and trepidation in his demeanor. The triplets stare at him from the living room couch, whispering among themselves, their small council observing the unexpected visitor. Finally, Zoe, ever the leader, marches forward, hands on her hips. "If you're really our daddy," she declares, her voice unwavering, "you gotta pass the interview." Malik blinks, thrown off guard. "Interview?" Zion nods solemnly, serious beyond his years. "We make the rules. You don't just get to show up now. You gotta earn it." Zane pulls out a notepad, serious as a lawyer, ready to take notes. "Question 1, he begins. "Will you read us bedtime stories, not just buy us toys?" Malik kneels down, meeting their eyes, his carefully constructed walls crumbling in the face of their simple demands. "Yes," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "Stories, every time you want them." "Question 2, Zoe says, her voice firm. "Will you come to school plays even if you're busy?" "I'll be there," Malik promises, his voice breaking, the weight of all the missed moments pressing down on him. "Question 3, Zion adds softly, his innocence highlighting the depth of their fear. "Will you promise not to leave Mama again?" Silence fills the room, heavy with unspoken pain and raw vulnerability. Malik swallows hard, tears threatening, a lifetime of regret and fear converging in this moment. I promise. No more leaving. Ever. The kids exchange looks, a silent communication passing between them, then break into wide, relieved smiles. Zoe climbs into his lap, nestling against him. Zane leans against his shoulder, finding comfort in his presence. Zion wraps his arms around his waist, a full embrace of acceptance. Malik closes his eyes, holding them tight, absorbing their small, precious weight. For the first time, he feels the true weight and the profound gift of fatherhood, a responsibility he had long avoided. From the doorway, Nia watches, her heart both heavy with past wounds and hopeful for a different future. Evelyn's lips tremble into a smile, witnessing the beginning of a genuine connection. For a moment, the family looks whole, fragile but united, a mosaic beginning to piece itself back together. Later, when the kids are asleep, Malik sets his phone on the table, the small device now a weapon for truth. I recorded her, he says, his voice grim. Victoria. She admitted everything, the letters, the lies. Nia's eyes widen, the full vindication of her past struggles washing over her. Evelyn leans forward, her voice low and firm. Then you've got her cornered. Malik nods. We'll need lawyers, strategy. But I won't hide this. Not anymore. No more secrets. Not between us. For the first time, Evelyn, Nia, and Malik sit shoulder to shoulder, united, not just by circumstance, but by a shared purpose, broken pieces beginning to fit. But across town, Victoria isn't idle. She files an ethics complaint with the foundation board, accusing Malik of funneling money into Soul and Spice, a twisted fabrication. The move freezes grants instantly, cutting off dozens of community programs, a cynical weaponization of philanthropy. Headlines scream, Carter Empire under scrutiny. At the duplex, Nia slams the paper onto the table, her chest heaving. She's not just after you, she's after me, after them. Malik's face hardens, a steely resolve replacing his earlier hesitation. Then she'll face me. He pulls out his phone, types a message, and hits send. We talk tonight. His thumb hovers, then taps the record app again. The red light blinks. Victoria had built her power on silence, on manipulating narratives. Tonight, Malik would answer her with the truth, and the world would hear it. The next morning dawned storm gray. The family gathered at the hospital, nerves tight, prayers whispered like fragile hopes. Evelyn clutched the decorated eye shield, trembling as nurses prepped her for surgery, the moment of truth approaching. But then the lights flickered, a sudden ominous sign. Thunder cracked, rain lashed against the windows as the power cut out across half the city. The monitors went dark, the operating theater plunged into a sudden, terrifying silence. "Backup generator now!" a nurse shouted, panic lacing her voice. Nia clutched the triplets close, panic flaring, the familiar specter of helplessness rising again. Malik grabbed his phone, already dialing, his corporate training kicking in, a desperate search for solutions. Evelyn sat still, her lips moving in silent prayer, her faith a quiet anchor in the chaos. The surgery that was supposed to bring her vision back had just collided with a storm that threatened to plunge them all into darkness, both literal and metaphorical. The hospital corridors flickered with failing lights, thunder rumbling above like God himself was drumming the sky, a dramatic backdrop to the unfolding crisis. Nurses rushed to wheel carts, plug machines into failing outlets, their voices sharp and panicked. "We've lost main power!" someone shouted, the urgency palpable. Nia clutched the triplets close, her heart hammering, her protective instincts on high alert. Zoe buried her face against her mother's chest, whispering, "Mama, is Grandma going to die?" "No, baby," Nia said, though her voice trembled, trying to project a strength she barely felt. "She's not. We won't let her." Malik's phone was already pressed to his ear, his voice cutting through the chaos, commanding and authoritative. "This is Carter Tech Emergency Services," he barked. "Reroute generators to Grady Hospital now. Priority 1. I don't care if we shut down Midtown HQ. Get them here." He shoved the phone back in his pocket and grabbed Deshawn's arm, a man of action now. "I need you to clear the route. When those trucks come, they'll need escort through this storm." Deshawn's face was grim, but he nodded, a silent commitment to action. "Say less." He stormed out into the rain, determination like steel in his stride, a true community hero. Evelyn sat in her gurney, hands folded tight over her cane, her physical blindness a stark contrast to her inner resolve. Her lips moved in prayer, whispering the psalms she'd memorized in her years of blindness, finding solace in faith. Around her, doctors hurried with flashlights, prepping for a surgery that could no longer wait, the precious corneas on a ticking clock. "Miss Carter," the surgeon said firmly, his voice conveying urgency. "The corneas are ready, but we can't delay too long. We risk losing viability." "Then we proceed," Evelyn said, lifting her chin, her voice steady and unwavering. "Light or no light, storm or no storm, we proceed." Her courage was formidable, a testament to her newfound purpose. Minutes later, the Carter Tech trucks rolled up, engines growling against the storm, a powerful convoy cutting through the deluge. Deshawn led them through flooded streets, waving a flashlight like a beacon, a lifeline in the darkness. The triplets pressed against the hospital window, watching the convoy arrive, their small faces alight with hope. "They're here!" Zion shouted, a cry of triumph. Generators thudded to life, humming steady, a reassuring sound of power returning. Lights flickered back on, not strong but steady enough, chasing away the encroaching gloom. Relief rippled through the halls, a collective exhale. The surgeon gave a sharp nod. "We're a go." Inside the operating theater, sterile white light illuminated Evelyn's face, a beacon of hope. Surgeons leaned in, gloved hands precise, voices calm, performing the delicate dance of life. Outside, Nia paced the waiting room with the triplets clinging to her hands, a nervous energy radiating from her. Malik sat rigid in a chair, fists clenched, staring at the floor, his usual composure shattered by anxiety. "She'll be okay, right?" Zane whispered, his inhaler rattling in his pocket, his small voice filled with a child's vulnerable fear. "Yes," Malik said firmly, though his throat felt dry, his voice a promise to his son. "Your grandma is stronger than anyone I know." Hours stretched like years, each passing minute an agonizing eternity. Finally, the doors opened. The surgeon emerged, peeling off gloves, his face tired but relieved. "The transplant went smoothly," he said. "She'll need weeks of healing, but the graft took." Nia sagged into a chair, tears flooding her eyes, a profound release of tension. The triplets squealed, hugging each other, their joy uncontainable. Malik closed his eyes, whispering a thank you he hadn't prayed in years, a silent offering of gratitude. When Evelyn finally blinked awake, the room was hushed, bathed in a soft, diffused light. Her eyes, once clouded, fluttered beneath bandages as the doctor carefully peeled them back. "Don't force it," he said gently. "Just let the light in." Shapes blurred, light stabbed, a dazzling, disorienting sensation. Then slowly, miraculously, clarity seeped in. Evelyn gasped, a profound visceral reaction. Before her stood three small silhouettes, hand in hand, trembling with anticipation, their outlines sharpening into faces she had only known by touch. Zoe's cheek dimples, Zion's crescent birthmark, Zane's curious brown eyes, wide with tears. "My babies," she whispered, her own tears spilling freely, a lifetime of darkness receding. "Lord, I can see my babies." The triplets collapsed into her arms, their laughter and sobs mingling in a beautiful, chaotic symphony. Malik turned away, swiping at his own tears, profoundly moved. Nia pressed a hand to her mouth, silently weeping, witnessing the miracle. For the first time in years, Evelyn's world wasn't dark. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a second chance at sight, at family, at life. But joy doesn't stay untouched for long. By evening, headlines began to swirl again. Victoria's cruel handiwork. Blind billionaire buys site by evicting tenants. Carter dynasty profits from the poor. Articles spread across gossip blogs claiming Evelyn's surgery had been funded by shutting down low-income housing projects. Photos of rundown apartments plastered the front page, painting her as a tyrant who stole sight at the cost of community lives, a monstrous lie. Evelyn froze in her hospital bed, the printed headline shaking in her hands, a bitter irony to her newfound vision. "This isn't true," she whispered, her voice fragile. "I gave those families grants, not evictions. It doesn't matter what's true," Malik muttered darkly, his face grim. "It matters what people believe, and Victoria just poisoned the well." But Pastor Renee wasn't having it. She strode into the hospital room, phone in hand, fire in her eyes, a warrior for truth. "Then we fight fire with light." Within an hour, she launched a live stream from the hospital chapel. Elders, mothers, young men, neighbors, all lined up testifying about the scholarships Evelyn had funded, the housing projects she had preserved, the kitchens she had stocked. "Miss Carter didn't rob us," Pastor Renee declared to thousands watching live. "She restored us. She lifted us one by one." Voices echoed, stories piled, drowning out the smear with truth. Comments poured in. "We see you, Evelyn." Carter family always gave back. Victoria's lies can't win. Evelyn wept as she listened, hope seeping back into her bones, the light of community dispelling the darkness of malicious lies. But even as the live stream trended, Malik's phone buzzed with a new alert. His face hardened as he read it aloud. "Emergency custody hearing, 48 hours. Victoria's pulling her final card." Nia froze, her arms tightening around the triplets. "She wants to take my babies." "No," Malik said fiercely, his eyes burning with a protective fire. "She wants to use them to break us." The storm still rattled the windows outside, but inside the hospital room, another storm gathered. A courtroom battle that would decide the fate of a family finally finding its way back together. A fight for their very existence. The Fulton County Courthouse had never seen a morning like this. The marble steps overflowed with reporters, cameras flashing, microphones waving, a ravenous media circus. Headlines shouted before the judge even entered. "Carter custody war begins today. Triplets in the balance. Will the dynasty claim them?" Inside the courtroom, benches were filled to bursting. Neighbors from Auburn Avenue, church members, Deshawn's barbershop crew, all had shown up to stand for Naya and the triplets, a powerful display of community solidarity. The air buzzed with whispers and prayers, a collective hope for justice. Nia sat at the front table, her hands trembling on the polished wood. The triplets were at home with Miss Laverne, shielded from the circus, but their drawings, 3 stars and a heart, peeked from her purse like talismans, silent protectors. Evelyn sat beside her, dark glasses hiding the strain in her healing eyes, her presence a silent act of support. Malik was at the opposite end, shoulders squared, expression unreadable, a man on the precipice of a profound decision. Victoria, sharp as a blade in her tailored suit, smirked, confident the outcome was already hers. "All rise," the bailiff called. Judge Martinez entered, her gaze sweeping over the packed room. She adjusted her glasses, her voice firm and authoritative. "This court is here to determine custody arrangements for the children of Malik Carter and Nia Roberts. Let's proceed." Victoria rose first, papers in hand, radiating an icy confidence. "Your Honor," she began, her tone dripping with polished contempt. "These children deserve stability. Miss Roberts is a food truck operator, an unstable entrepreneur whose business literally went up in flames weeks ago. She cannot provide consistent care. The Carter Empire, on the other hand, offers structure, resources, security." Gasps rippled from the benches, murmurs of disbelief. Pastor Renee muttered, "Lord have mercy," her frustration palpable. Victoria's lips curled into a cruel smile. Furthermore, Miss Roberts has been parading these children in front of cameras, exploiting them for sympathy. The only way to protect their well-being and the Carter legacy is for Malik Carter to have sole custody. Nia shot to her feet, fury blazing in her eyes. "That's a lie!" The judge raised a hand, her voice stern. "Miss Roberts, you'll have your turn." Nia sat slowly, chest heaving, Evelyn's hand squeezing hers under the table, a silent anchor in the storm. When it was Malik's turn, the room leaned in, everyone expecting him to echo Victoria, to seize the Empire's image as priority. But Malik stood tall, his voice steady, a newfound resolve in his eyes. "Your Honor, Victoria speaks of stability, but let me tell you the truth. The real stability in my children's lives has been their mother. For 7 years, she raised them alone, fed them, clothed them, loved them. I abandoned her, not the other way around." The courtroom hushed to silence, the weight of his confession palpable. Even Victoria's smirk faltered, her composure momentarily shattered. Malik continued, his voice breaking with genuine emotion. "I will not ask for sole custody. I ask for joint custody with Nia as primary caregiver. I want to be in my children's lives, but I will not rip them from the woman who carried them when I ran away." Nia's eyes filled with tears, a profound validation of her sacrifices. Evelyn covered her mouth with her hands, whispering a silent prayer of gratitude. The judge tilted her head, intrigued. "That's an unexpected stance, Mr. Carter." "Yes," Malik said, turning toward Victoria, his gaze unwavering. "But today is about truth." He reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone. With a single tap, the recording played. Victoria's voice filled the courtroom, clear and damning. 7 years ago, she wrote him letters, pleading, begging. I intercepted everyone. He thought she didn't care. She thought he ignored her. And me? I got Malik Carter focused on empire, not diapers. Gasps exploded across the room. The church women shook their heads in disbelief. Deshaun muttered curses under his breath. Reporters scribbled furiously, the story taking a dramatic turn. Victoria's face drained of color, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. That's out of context. Save it, Malik snapped, his voice sharp with righteous indignation. You silenced the mother of my children and poisoned our lives for your power. The judge's gavel cracked, a sharp retort. Order! Order! She fixed Victoria with a glare sharp enough to cut stone. This court does not take kindly to manipulation of evidence and obstruction of parental rights. Bailiff, escort Miss Price from the floor. An ethics inquiry will follow. The room erupted in murmurs as Victoria was led away, her mask shattered, her empire of lies collapsing around her. Silence returned as Judge Martinez shuffled her papers, the tension still thick in the air. After review of the evidence, this court rules joint legal custody will be granted to both parents. Primary physical custody remains with the mother, Miss Roberts. The father, Mr. Carter, will share in all decision-making. Furthermore, a protective order is issued barring any corporate interference, especially from parties like Miss Price, in the private affairs of these children. Cheers broke out from the benches, a wave of triumphant relief. Evelyn wept openly, clutching her cane, her long journey toward justice finally bearing fruit. Malik closed his eyes, relief rushing through him, the immense burden lifted. Nia exhaled, tears streaming as she mouthed a silent thank you toward heaven. The gavel cracked again. This hearing is adjourned. Outside, the courthouse steps exploded with reporters, cameras flashing, mics thrust forward, a renewed frenzy. "Nia, how do you feel about the ruling?" "Malik, what's next for the Carter family?" "Evelyn, can you see your grandchildren yet?" Nia shielded her eyes, overwhelmed by the sudden spotlight. Malik put a protective arm around her shoulders, guiding her down the steps. For the first time, they moved not as adversaries, but as partners, a united front. But in the shadows, a phone buzzed. A Carter Tech engineer glanced at the screen and blanched. "Breach detected. Internal servers compromised. Source: unknown." He sprinted down the courthouse steps, phone in hand, toward Malik. "Sir, the company's systems—" "Someone's in. It's bad." Malik froze, dread seeping into his bones. Victoria was gone from the courtroom, but her war wasn't finished. The Empire and their fragile new family were under siege again. The digital battle had begun, a final desperate act of corporate malice. The moment Malik stepped out of the courthouse, his phone lit up with a flood of red alerts. Engineers were calling. System admins were panicking. Carter Tech servers, the very heart of the Empire, were under siege. Breach detected. Intrusion spreading through internal systems. He turned to Nia, his eyes grim. The triumph of the courtroom battle quickly overshadowed by this new threat. "We don't have time to celebrate. This is an attack, and I know who's behind it." Evelyn gripped her cane, her healing eyes still fragile, but burning with rage. "Victoria." Malik nodded, his jaw set. "She couldn't win in court, so she's trying to burn the house down on her way out." By midnight, Carter Tech HQ looked like a fortress under siege. Emergency generators hummed, every screen filled with cascading code. Engineers huddled over laptops, sweat on their brows, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of the monitors. Malik strode through the chaos, barking orders, his leadership instincts sharp and decisive. "Shut down external ports. Isolate the compromised servers. Nobody sleeps until this breach is stopped." But when he looked around at his exhausted staff, he saw more than panic. He saw hunger, fatigue, morale breaking, their energy dwindling. That's when Nia entered, a silent, powerful force, rolling in stainless steel trays. The intoxicating scent of cornbread, jerk chicken, and mac and cheese filled the air, a comforting, life-affirming aroma cutting through the sterile hum of technology. Behind her, the triplets carried pitchers of sweet tea and lemonade, their small faces determined. "Dinner break," she announced firmly, her voice a calm authority. "No one fights on an empty stomach." The engineers blinked, stunned. Then, as the first bites went down, shoulders loosened, laughter returned, keyboards clattered with renewed energy. Malik stared at her, something in his chest shifting. She hadn't just fed them food, she'd fed them hope, humanity, and a sense of care that had been missing in the corporate grind. While the adults focused on code, the triplets explored HQ like it was an adventure, their childlike wonder a stark contrast to the high-stakes battle. They scribbled on sticky notes, plastering them across whiteboards. "Plan board," Zoe announced proudly. "Step 1, stop the bad guys. Step 2, don't cry. Step 3, fix Daddy's computers." Zion nodded sagely. "We're the bosses now." Zane, ever observant, wandered into a server closet, his inhaler clipped to his shirt. He frowned at the overheating machines. "It's too hot in here. The fans are jammed." Before anyone could stop him, he grabbed a roll of duct tape and a paper fan from the catering supplies. With help from Zoe, he rigged the fan against a vent, redirecting airflow just enough to keep the machines from frying. An engineer stumbled in, jaw dropping. "That actually worked!" Zane grinned, proud of his ingenuity. "Told you, I'm an inventor." Malik appeared in the doorway, stunned to see his son solving a crisis in his own quiet, brilliant way. For the first time, he didn't see just a boy. He saw legacy, A different kind of brilliance than he was used to, but no less powerful. Evelyn sat in Malik's office, dim light falling across her partially healed eyes. She could make out shapes now, blurred outlines, but she could see enough, both literally and figuratively. Malik slumped into the chair opposite her, exhaustion dragging at his frame. "I'm losing them, Mama. The company, the family. I can't hold it all together." Evelyn's voice was soft but steady, imbued with hard-won wisdom. "Baby, you were never meant to hold it all alone. I built an empire with pride, and it cost me my sight, my son, my grandbabies. Don't repeat my mistake." He dropped his head into his hands, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "But if I let go, it all collapses." "No," Evelyn whispered, reaching across to clasp his trembling hands. "If you share the load, it stands stronger. Trust them. Nia, the children, the community. Stewardship is not control. It's faith." Malik blinked, her words sinking deep into his soul. For the first time, he considered that empire didn't mean power alone. It meant people, connection, shared purpose. Just as dawn broke, an email hit Malik's inbox. Subject line: "Proof of Victoria's crimes." Attached were files, bank statements, shell company records, kickback receipts, all tied to Victoria. At the bottom was a chilling note: "She paid me to cover for her, but I'm done. She's boarding a flight tonight. Stop her, former associate." Malik leapt to his feet, showing Nia the evidence, his face grim but resolute. "This is it, the smoking gun. She can't weasel out of this." Nia's eyes narrowed, a fierce determination in them. "Then what are we waiting for?" Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport buzzed with morning chaos. Malik and Nia pushed through crowds, their eyes scanning for Victoria. "There!" Zoe shouted, her sharp young eyes spotting a sleek figure striding toward the security gate, sunglasses covering her eyes, attempting to blend in. "Victoria!" Malik's voice cut through the terminal, sharp and authoritative. She froze, then quickened her pace, a flicker of panic in her movements. Nia darted ahead, blocking her path, a formidable barrier. "Not this time, Victoria!" Victoria sneered, her composure cracking. "You think a cook and a coward can stop me?" Malik held up his phone, evidence files glowing on the screen, irrefutable proof. "You're finished. Kickbacks, theft, sabotage, it's all here. You don't just lose the company, you face prison." Security closed in, alerted by airport police. Victoria's mask cracked completely, raw panic flashing across her face as they took her by the arms. "This isn't over," she hissed, her voice laced with venom. "I built that empire. Without me, it crumbles." Malik's gaze was cold steel, unyielding. "No, without you, it breathes." The crowd erupted in murmurs, phones recording the dramatic takedown. For once, the Carter family wasn't hiding. They were standing tall, reclaiming their narrative, their integrity. Outside the terminal, the storm had cleared, sun breaking through the clouds, a symbolic new beginning. Nia stood with the triplets, exhaustion etched into her face, but relief softening her shoulders. Malik walked toward them, stopping just short, a moment of profound hesitation. Then, his knees hit the pavement. He wasn't holding a ring, no grand gesture of wealth. Just raw truth. "I failed you," he said, his voice shaking, filled with genuine remorse. "I failed you, Nia, when I didn't believe. I failed you, my babies, when I wasn't there to hold you through fevers and tears. I let fear and pride steal 7 years we'll never get back. I can't fix the past, but I swear I'll fight every day to be worthy of the future, to earn your trust, to never walk away again." The triplets rushed forward, wrapping their small arms around him, chanting, "Daddy, Daddy!" Zoe kissed his cheek. Zion pressed his forehead to his. Zane whispered, "Don't break this promise," his small voice holding the weight of their fragile hope. Nia watched, her eyes shining with unshed tears. She wasn't ready to say yes to love again, not yet. But she couldn't deny the man kneeling before his children was no longer the coward who had left. He was showing up genuinely, authentically. Evelyn, standing nearby, blinked against the sunlight, her vision still blurred, but she could see enough. The outlines of a family bound not by scandal, not by empire, but by forgiveness, respect, and a shared commitment to a different future. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, they weren't fighting alone. They were a united front, ready to face whatever came next, together. The air smelled of barbecue smoke and collard greens, sweet tea and peach cobbler. Auburn Avenue pulsed with life that Saturday afternoon, transformed into a street-wide block party, a vibrant tapestry of community. Red, green, and black banners flapped overhead, symbols of cultural pride. Kids darted between tables, their faces painted like superheroes, their laughter infectious. A local step team drummed their boots on the asphalt, the rhythm echoing down the block, a joyous, defiant beat. In the center of it all stood the Soul and Spice food truck, freshly repainted after the fire, its teal sides gleaming in the sun, a phoenix risen from the ashes. A hand-painted mural stretched across the back, 3 stars and a heart, the triplets' doodle immortalized, a permanent symbol of their innocence and the love that saved their grandmother. Nia leaned out the service window, apron tied tight, passing plates of jerk chicken and macaroni to the line snaking halfway down the block. Sweat rolled down her brow, but her smile never faltered, radiating a deep, authentic joy. "These are free today," she called, her voice carrying across the crowd. "Eat, y'all. This is for the community that stood for us when nobody else did." Behind her, Zoe carried trays to elders at the front tables, serving with a budding sense of responsibility. Zane helped refill sweet tea jugs, his inhaler clipped to his shirt, a quiet but integral part of the team. Zion entertained the children in line with knock-knock jokes, his laughter like sunlight breaking through clouds, spreading joy. At the far end of the block, Deshawn's barbershop had pulled its chairs into the street. Clippers buzzed as he lined up fades for neighborhood boys, cracking jokes while gospel music boomed from the speakers. The atmosphere was electric, joyful, defiant, healing. A community celebrating its resilience and unity. Malik wasn't a man used to blending into crowds, but today he wasn't in a suit. He wore jeans and a white tee, standing quietly near the food truck, watching his children pass out food with the pride of little CEOs, a different kind of empire in the making. Nia stepped down from the truck to wipe her brow, and Malik offered her a cold bottle of water, a small but significant gesture of care. "You've been at this for hours," he said softly, his voice gentle. She took it, cautious but grateful. "Feeding people is what I do." "Not just people," he murmured, his eyes drifting to the triplets, a profound realization dawning on him. "You've been feeding my family all along." For a moment, the noise of the block party faded around them, the world shrinking to just the two of them. A song drifted from the DJ booth, soft, slow, familiar. "Before I Let Go" by Maze. Malik hesitated, then extended his hand, a silent question. "Dance with me." Nia froze, caught between pride and longing, the old wound still fresh, but the possibility of a new connection alluring. Then slowly, she placed her hand in his. They swayed on the asphalt, surrounded by their community, the rhythm a gentle pulse. It wasn't romantic fireworks, just a slow, steady rhythm. Bodies moving in sync, a fragile connection, rebuilding. His hand rested respectfully on her waist, hers on his shoulder. For the first time in 7 years, their eyes met without anger, without walls, a quiet understanding passing between them. "You hurt me," she whispered, her voice breaking, the pain still raw. "I know," Malik said, his forehead lowering toward hers, a silent apology. "And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel abandoned again." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she didn't pull away. The crowd cheered as the step teams circled them, clapping in rhythm, a spontaneous, joyful blessing. To the world, it looked like a dance. To them, it was something closer to a vow, a commitment to a shared, uncertain future. The next morning, the family gathered at church. The sanctuary overflowed, word having spread fast about Evelyn Carter's return. She stood slowly at the pulpit, dark glasses hiding her fragile, recovering eyes, her posture humble. "My family," she began, her voice trembling but gaining strength with each word. "I have been blind for many years, not just in my sight, but in my heart. I turned my back on my son. I turned my back on a woman who loved him. I turned my back on my grandchildren before I even held them." The room was hushed, every ear leaning forward, absorbing her raw confession. But the Lord, in His mercy, gave me a second chance. He allowed 3 little hands to guide me across a street and back into grace. My babies saved my life, and now I must spend the rest of mine earning that gift. She removed her glasses, revealing eyes still red from surgery, but glistening with tears, a profound vulnerability. I can see again, not just light and faces, but truth. And the truth is, family is greater than empire. Love is greater than pride. The church erupted in amens and applause, a collective outpouring of affirmation. Evelyn's knees buckled, but Malik rushed forward to steady her, supporting her physical and emotional weight. Nia joined him, and for the first time, they stood together at the altar, not fractured but whole, a family united by shared struggle and nascent forgiveness. Later that afternoon, the triplets clambered onto the small community stage set up outside. Zoe adjusted the microphone nervously, her small hands fumbling. "We wrote a poem," she announced proudly, her voice carrying across the expectant crowd. "It's called Grandma Can See." The crowd leaned in as the 3 voices joined in a sweet, earnest chorus. She touched our faces in the street, said our dimples felt like home. Eyes were closed, but hearts still beat, afraid but not alone. Grandma can see our smiles now. Grandma can see us run. Grandma can see we're family under the same bright sun. The last line cracked, their little voices breaking with tears, an echo of their powerful emotion. Evelyn wept openly, clutching her cane to her chest, overwhelmed by their pure, unconditional love. The crowd roared with applause, some wiping their own eyes, deeply moved. For once, the story wasn't in the headlines. It was in the voices of children who had turned pain into poetry, a powerful testament to healing. But joy, as always, was shadowed by truth. That evening, as the family returned to Evelyn's townhouse, her aide handed her a stack of old mail recovered from storage. Among them was a letter in familiar, formal handwriting. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open. "Miss Carter, we regret to inform you that the accident that caused your blindness was due to negligence on our part. Our driver fell asleep at the wheel. Please accept our deepest apologies." The words blurred. Evelyn collapsed into her chair, the weight of it crushing her. For years, she had blamed fate, even God, for her blindness, using it as an excuse for her withdrawal and hardening. Now she knew it was human failure, a simple, preventable mistake, and it had stolen her sight. But worse than that, she thought, a wave of shame washing over her. I used that blindness as my excuse to retreat, to harden my heart, to abandon. Shame ripped through her like fire, a painful self-recrimination. That night, Evelyn sat alone in her study, the letter open on her lap. She stared at the legal documents spread across her desk, deeds, trust papers, corporate authority. She picked up her pen with trembling fingers, the weight of a lifetime of choices pressing down. "If I sign this," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "everything transfers to Malik, the empire, the foundation, all of it." Her tears dripped onto the page. She thought of the crowd cheering her at church, of her grandchildren's poem, of the slow, tentative dance between Malik and Nia, and yet the weight of guilt pressed down harder, the question of her worthiness. "I don't deserve to lead anymore," she whispered, her voice laced with self-doubt. "Maybe my only penance is to step aside." The pen hovered above the signature line as thunder rolled outside, the sound of a storm echoing the storm inside her heart. Would she abandon her family again? This time not out of pride, but out of shame? The ink tip touched paper, a silent moment of decision. The headlines were merciless. Evelyn Carter, philanthropist or fraud? Blind billionaire's empire built on lies? Carter dynasty in crisis, can they survive? Clips resurfaced from years past. Evelyn at galas, her voice sharp, her demeanor imperious. Malik in glossy interviews, cool and detached, praising vision while his children grew up without him. The think pieces wrote themselves. Cold dynasty, broken family, redemption, all a PR spin. Nia sat at the kitchen table with her phone dark-faced in front of her. She hadn't opened the news feeds in days, but the neighbors whispered loud enough for the children to hear. Zoe had already asked, "Mama, why are people saying Grandma is mean?" Nia hadn't known what to answer, the complexity too much for a child. In the living room, Evelyn sat with her cane across her lap, silent, her eyes clearer now, staring at nothing. She looked smaller than Nia had ever seen her, weighed down, not by blindness, but by shame, a profound spiritual darkness. Malik paced the hall like a caged man, phone buzzing with board demands, shareholder fears, staff questions. Yet even his empire voice was cracking, something vital breaking within him. Pastor Renee recommended a family counselor, and though Malik bristled at the idea, he showed up, a testament to his burgeoning commitment. They gathered in a small circle in a modest office, the air thick with tension. The triplets colored quietly in the corner, while the adults sat face to face, prepared for the painful truths. The counselor, a calm black woman with a voice like honey, began gently. "This family has been through trauma, separations, lies, betrayals. Healing will not come without truth. Who will start?" Evelyn's fingers tightened on her cane. She inhaled shakily. "I was a woman who thought power meant control," she said, her voice a raw confession. "I thought admitting wrong was weakness. I pushed my son away. I turned my back on Nia. I told myself pride was dignity, but it was cowardice. And I hid behind blindness as if that excused my heart being blind long before my eyes." Malik's jaw clenched, but he nodded slowly, recognizing the painful truth in her words. "Mama." She reached for his hand, tears streaming. "I am sorry, Malik. I stole from you the chance to be a father without fear, and I stole from my grandchildren the chance to know me without bitterness." The room was silent except for the triplets' crayon scratching, the sound a quiet counterpoint to the emotional upheaval. Then Malik spoke, his voice filled with a profound remorse. "I abandoned them, all of them. I let Victoria's lies convince me that Naya didn't want me, that she shut me out. But even after I knew the truth, part of me wanted to believe it because it excused me from facing my own fear of being like my father. I ran, and in running, I became worse than him. I wasn't there for first steps, fevers, birthdays. I can't give that back." He turned toward Nia, his eyes raw with emotion. "I broke you, Nia. I left you to carry everything, and I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking you for a chance to prove I've changed." Nia sat still, her face unreadable, absorbing his confession. Then she spoke, steady and strong. "I carried this family. I fought for these kids with every ounce of myself, alone, and I will not let anyone, even you, make me feel small again. If we are to move forward, it must be with respect. Not money, not empire, not promises, Respect for me, for the children, for the life we built without you." The counselor nodded, a confirmation of the crucial principles. Boundaries, accountability, truth. This is how families rebuild. The triplets looked up then, wide-eyed, sensing a shift in the heavy atmosphere. Zoe climbed into Nia's lap. Zayn leaned against Malik's side. Zion whispered, "Can we stop fighting now?" For the first time, all three adults answered in unison, "Yes, baby, we can." The healing had truly begun. That same afternoon, breaking news scrolled across the bottom of every Atlanta TV. District Attorney announces indictment of former Carter Tech CFO Victoria Price. Charges of wire fraud, corporate theft, obstruction of justice. Images of Victoria in handcuffs flashed across the screen, her once perfect composure shattered. At Carter Tech HQ, staff exhaled in relief. Stock prices ticked upward, not soaring, but steadying. The cancer had been cut out, and though the wound still bled, healing was possible. Malik watched from his office window, then turned to Nia, who had brought lunch for the team, a quiet gesture of continued support. "She's gone," he said softly. "The storm is passing." Nia shook her head, her wisdom hard-won. Storms don't just pass. You rebuild. The next morning, Evelyn did something no one expected. She showed up at the Carter Foundation Community Kitchen, not in designer clothes, not with a press crew, but in a plain apron. She rolled up her sleeves, hair tied back, and asked a teenage volunteer, "Where do you need me?" For hours, she washed dishes, chopped onions, stirred giant pots of stew. Her hands blistered, her back ached, but she stayed. And more than that, she listened. She listened to the single mother who came every Thursday for a bag of groceries, to the retired teacher who volunteered to tutor kids after school, to the little boy who said, "Miss Carter, thank you for the shoes." When she left that night, her soul was lighter than it had been in years, filled with the quiet satisfaction of genuine service. Back at her townhouse, Evelyn laid the resignation papers on the table. Malik walked in, saw the pen poised, and froze. "You're not signing that." She looked up, startled. "Malik, I've brought nothing but scandal. The company deserves better." "No," he said firmly, stepping closer, a powerful sense of conviction in his voice. "The company deserves the truth. And the truth is, you built it, not for perfection, but for people. I don't need your resignation, Mama. I need your wisdom. We all do." Her tears spilled freely, a profound emotional release. "But what if I fail you again?" He knelt beside her chair, gripping her hands. "Then we fail together. But you're not running this time. Not from me, not from them." Slowly, Evelyn set down the pen. For the first time, she chose to stay, choosing connection over isolation, responsibility over retreat. Later that week, Malik sat alone in his office, staring at his laptop. His children's laughter floated from the next room, Nia's voice calling them to wash up for dinner. He opened a new document. Across the top, he typed, "Surprise plan." Lines filled the page, an idea bigger than money, bigger than empire, a way to honor Nia, the triplets, and the community that had carried them. He glanced at the family photo taped to his desk. Zoe, Zayn, Zion grinning with cornbread in hand, Nia rolling her eyes, Evelyn laughing through tears. Malik smiled faintly. "This time," he whispered, "I build for them." The cursor blinked. The plan grew, and outside his window, Atlanta's skyline glowed like a city waiting for a new chapter, a testament to what could be built when purpose aligns with love. Atlanta's skyline shimmered in the late afternoon sun, but all eyes were on a corner of Sweet Auburn, where a brand new building rose from the earth. Its walls were glass and brick, modern yet warm, decorated with murals by local artists, a vibrant fusion of contemporary design and community spirit. Children darted across the fresh pavement, their laughter ringing out like bells, a joyous sound of new beginnings. A massive banner stretched across the entrance. the Roberts Carter Family Center. Below the name was a painted mural, unveiled with a tug of a cord, 3 stars and a heart. The triplets' doodle writ large across the facade, a symbol of their enduring innocence and the love that had sparked this transformation. The crowd gasped, applauded, cheered, a collective outpouring of awe and admiration. The triplets themselves stood front and center, jaws dropped, their eyes wide with wonder. "Zane," Zoe whispered, tugging her brother's arm, "that's our drawing." "It's huge," Zion breathed, his small voice filled with reverence. "It's forever." Nia bent to kiss the tops of their heads. "It's your legacy inside." The building buzzed with energy. On one floor, a culinary lab gleamed with stainless steel counters, ovens and spice racks lined neatly against the walls. The smell of cornbread already drifted from the first batch, Nia's team of teens eagerly baking. "This space is yours," Nia said proudly, her voice carrying across the room, resonating with passion. "For every kid who loves food, every youth who wants to turn recipes into futures. No gatekeeping, no closed doors, just opportunity." The crowd roared approval, sensing the profound impact this would have. On the floor above, Malik guided visitors through a sleek, colorful coding lab. Computers lined the walls, beanbag chairs scattered across corners, inviting creativity and collaboration. Murals of Black inventors and scientists painted high, inspiring young minds. "Here," Malik said, his voice softer than his usual boardroom tone, filled with a new kind of pride. "Our kids learn to build not just apps and software, but futures of their own making. Because empire isn't inheritance, it's creation." The applause was thunderous, a recognition of his transformed vision. In a cozy corner room painted in warm barbershop reds and browns, Deshaun leaned against a chair, clippers in hand, his presence a comforting anchor. "Mentorship ain't about preaching," he said with a grin. "It's about listening. It's about making a safe space for boys to be boys and then grow into men." He spun the chair around, the crowd laughing and clapping, appreciating his down-to-earth wisdom. The center wasn't just a building. It was a promise, a living embodiment of their commitment to community, to opportunity, to healing. That evening, after the ribbon had been cut and the crowd dispersed, Malik pulled Nia aside. The triplets ran across the playground outside, squealing with joy, their boundless energy a symbol of their newfound freedom. Evelyn rested on a bench nearby, her cane beside her, watching with a serene smile. Malik's hands shook as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. But when he opened it, it wasn't a diamond solitaire, no grand display of wealth. It was a simple gold band, modest but gleaming, a symbol of something deeper. Nia's breath caught, her heart fluttering. "I'm not asking you for marriage," Malik said quickly, his voice earnest, filled with genuine intention. "Not yet. Not until you're ready. This ring isn't about that. It's about partnership. First in parenting, then in purpose, and maybe one day, in love." He placed the ring in her palm, a tangible offering of commitment. "I want to build with you, Nia. Not over you, not around you. With you." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she looked at him, the man who had broken her, who was now learning to heal with her, to build anew. She slipped the ring on her finger, and though she said nothing, her silence was not rejection. It was hope, a quiet, powerful acceptance of a future they would co-create. Later that night, Evelyn gathered the family in the study of the new center. Papers lay on the table, her signature inked across the bottom. "This is for you," she said, sliding the deed forward, a profound gesture of reparation. "A house, modest, near the center. Not a mansion, not a palace, just a home. Yours outright. For Nia, for my grandbabies, for security." Nia's eyes widened, tears blurring her vision. "Evelyn, I can't accept." "Yes, you can," Evelyn interrupted firmly, but her tone was soft, imbued with a newfound grace. This is not a string, not a bribe. This is me making right what I made wrong. You should never again fear eviction, fear fire, fear instability. You carried this family when my son would not. This is the least I can do." The triplets squealed, clapping and hugging each other, their joy infectious. "We get our own rooms!" Zoe cried. Evelyn laughed through tears, pulling them close. "Yes, babies, your own rooms." Nia pressed her hand over Evelyn's. "Thank you. Not for the house, for finally seeing us." It was a powerful acknowledgement, a profound moment of mutual recognition and respect, the site milestone. 2 days later, Evelyn sat in the doctor's office, Nia by her side, Malik standing protectively behind her. The specialist leaned in, examining her healing eyes. "Your grafts are stable. The scarring is fading faster than expected. Within weeks, maybe days, you'll see faces clearly." Evelyn gasped, clutching Nia's hand, a wave of profound emotion washing over her. For months, her world had been shadows and blurs. But now, soon, she would see her grandchildren's dimples, Malik's eyes, Nia's smile with crystalline clarity. "I prayed for this," Evelyn whispered, her voice filled with a reverence she hadn't known she possessed. "Not for myself, but to see them as they are, to never miss another detail." Her heart swelled with gratitude and fear. Seeing meant facing. No more hiding behind blindness, no more excuses for the heart's true condition. The cliffhanger. On the eve of the center's grand public opening, the family gathered in the main hall. The triplets rehearsed their speeches, a whirlwind of nervous energy. Zoe practicing into the microphone, Zane fiddling with cue cards, Zion cracking jokes to calm the nerves. Evelyn sat quietly on the front row, her cane resting across her lap, her senses heightened. Slowly, with trembling hands, she reached up and removed her protective eye shield. Light flooded in, sharper, clearer than before. The blurred outlines of her grandchildren sharpened into distinct, beloved faces. She covered her mouth, tears welling, a profound, almost overwhelming moment. Tomorrow, the city would see the center, the culmination of so much effort and hope. But tonight, for the first time in years, Evelyn Carter began to truly see her family, not just with her eyes, but with her heart. The journey wasn't over, but for the first time, it felt like home. The promise of a new dawn, filled with vivid clarity, lay just ahead. The drumline cracked the morning open like thunder under a brilliant blue Atlanta sky. Sticks blurred, snares rattled, bass drums thumped against rib cages until everyone on Sweet Auburn stepped in time without meaning to, their bodies unconsciously moving to the infectious rhythm. A row of majorettes in crimson and cream tossed batons so high they winked at the sun, dazzling the crowd. The HBCU step team thundered onto the makeshift stage, boots slamming, hands clapping, chants rising until the street felt like a living heartbeat, joyful, relentless home. People poured toward the entrance of the new building, craning for a look at the glass and brick, the bright murals, the bold letters across the facade. The Roberts Carter Family Center. On the wall just to the right of the doors, the mural shimmered. 3 stars and a heart, painted so big it made strangers smile before they understood why, and made neighbors cry because they did. Nia stood with the triplets just beyond the ribbon, one hand steadying Zoe's shoulder, the other smoothing Zion's collar, her thumb finally finding Zane's inhaler clipped just right. Her hair was swept back, and her apron, white today for ceremony, was immaculate. She smelled like vanilla icing and nutmeg in the clean heat of an oven about to open, a comforting, familiar aroma. Deshaun hovered nearby with a brush in his back pocket and clippers at his belt, like a barber who'd wandered into a mayor's press conference and refused to dim himself for anyone, his authenticity shining through. Pastor Renee rested a palm over her heart, whispering a prayer only God and maybe the ancestors could hear over the drumline, a silent blessing. A hush rippled down the block as the step team stilled and the drumline cut, the morning air rushing in like a new beginning. Evelyn sat in the front row, her cane balanced across her knees. No shield today. The doctor had said her healing was strong. The world around her had been sharpening for days, faces sliding into focus, colors claiming their names again. But she had saved this moment, this first full, honest look for here, for now, for the ribbon and the drums and the 3 small faces trembling with excitement. Nia knelt to the triplets. "Ready, my loves?" Zoe nodded too fast, then kept nodding, a bundle of anticipation. Zane swallowed and stuck closer to his mama, but didn't let his chin drop, showing his quiet courage. Zion took both their hands, squeezed once the way he did before spelling tests and new playgrounds. "On 3, he whispered. 1, 2, wait, Evelyn said, her voice trembling, soft but carrying, like a song everyone recognized, a profound interjection. She rose a little, hands braced on the armrests, then stood fully when Malik moved to steady her elbow. He didn't guide, he offered. She accepted and let go, a powerful act of trust and independence, one step forward, then another. "Come to me," she said to the children. "Please." They did, a tangle of limbs and light, stopping a breath away so she could take them in, truly see them. First Zoe. The left cheek dimple deeper than the right when she grinned too hard. The little scar on the brow from a tumble off Deshawn's chair last summer, the eyes too wise and too soft for 7. Then Zane steadying his breath the way the doctor taught him, small fingers worrying the clip of the inhaler until he noticed her noticing. Then he let his hands fold instead, brave in a new way. "You're my inventor," she said, seeing the habit of thinking before speaking, of looking for the gears inside every moment. "You'll fix more than machines." And Zion, his curls catching the light, the crescent moon birthmark on his temple, clear as the mural itself. Evelyn lifted a shaking hand, and the boy dipped his head so she could kiss the mark. "You carry our moon," she said, her voice breaking entirely, "and light the dark." She pulled them close, counting again just to feel it. 1, 2, 3, 3 stars and a heart. The crowd behind them broke, sniffles and soft sobs, and a few unashamed shouts of, "Thank you, Jesus." And for a long breath, the city felt like a living room where everyone belonged, united in this profound moment of witnessing. Malik cleared his throat, stepped to the mic, and said nothing. Cameras waited. The mayor waited. The board, the press, the strangers who had opinions like pennies, they all waited. He looked at Nia, and she lifted her chin, offering nothing he hadn't earned, offering everything he could keep if he stayed. He turned back to the crowd. "I've given a lot of speeches," he began. "Shareholder meetings, product launches, check ceremonies where the number of zeros was supposed to prove the size of my heart." He shook his head. "This is the first time I tell the whole truth in public." He turned to Nia, his gaze filled with respect and gratitude. "For 7 years, this woman raised our children alone. She kept them fed, clothed, schooled, loved. She did it when I was absent. She did it when I believed lies that made my fear feel like logic. She is the reason we're standing here today." He faced the crowd again, his voice ringing with conviction. "I'm not a man making amends in a press release. I'm a father who finally showed up. These 3 children, our 3 miracles, are not my redemption arc. They're my teachers." Nia's eyes filled and then steadied. She stepped to the mic, placed her hands on the lectern like she placed them on a cutting board. Sure, practiced, unafraid of edges. "Community raised me," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Church ladies who watched my babies when I took a double shift. A brother who kept my car running with baling wire and prayer. Neighbors who ate my food, and when I had nothing left, brought me theirs." She looked out at the sea of faces, familiar, new, curious, skeptical, all of them real. So this center isn't a monument to the Carters' money. It's a promise from the Roberts kitchen table. If you're hungry, we feed you. If you've got dreams, we teach you. If you're scared, we sit with you until you're not. She glanced at Malik, the smallest nod, an entire paragraph of shared understanding. We're partners in parenting, partners in purpose, and the rest will take time. The crowd understood the spaces between the words and clapped like they were blessing those spaces too. Pastor Renee came forward then, palm raised for quiet. Before we cut this ribbon, I want to say something plain. She lifted her Bible without opening it. This family is not perfect. Neither is this city. We don't need perfect. We need committed. So here is the pledge we make today. Not just the Carters and the Roberts, but all of us who call this place home. She ticked them off on her fingers. Every promise a stone in a foundation. Free monthly vision clinics in partnership with the Foundation and Grady, with a special day for seniors, micro grants for single parents to cover rent gaps, childcare, or the exact emergency that makes a budget shatter, paid internships for teens in the coding lab, and living stipends for culinary apprentices. No one volunteers their labor because their family is poor. A legal aid desk on Wednesdays in the barber shop room to keep landlords honest and bosses fair, and a community council with real power to choose programs and set priorities. If you want a city with heart, she said, her voice resounding with passion, you build it with hands and time. You don't tweet it. You don't take pictures with it. You show up. She opened her arms. Now, let's show up together. The mayor spoke briefly, a smart leader with ceremonial scissors, posing for a photo with the kids. And then the moment came. The ribbon was red and glossy and ridiculous in the exact right way. Zoe took one handle of the oversized scissors. Zane held the other, and Zion braced the ribbon with both fists like a mission. Nia steadied them from behind. Malik laid a hand on Zane's shoulder. Evelyn, eyes clear and wet, tilted her face toward the children, a profound sense of peace washing over her. 1, 2, Zion breathed, and the sidewalk whispered the count with him, strangers turning into choir. 3, the scissors sliced. The drum line erupted, confetti cannons boomed, and the doors swung wide like a new year, inviting everyone in. Inside, life rushed in. Kids poured into the coding lab and squealed over robots and simple games, the walls painted with faces they recognized. Katherine Johnson, Mark Dean, Gladys West. Teens tied on aprons in the culinary lab, giggling and dead serious at once, while Nia showed them how to hold a knife without fear or waste. Deshaun pulled a boy into the barber chair and lined up his edge so crisply the kid sat taller before he even stood up. A grandmother tried on donated reading glasses at a pop-up optometry station and breathed the name of Jesus because letters became words again. Evelyn moved through it all like someone walking her own childhood street for the first time, seeing the world anew. She paused to hear a young coder explain a game where you catch affirmations instead of coins. She asked a girl in the kitchen what her favorite spice was and got a dissertation on smoked paprika. She stood in the barbershop room and listened to a 15-year-old mumble that he couldn't concentrate at school because the lights buzzed and the teacher thought he was lazy. "We'll get you checked," she said, hand on his shoulder. Sometimes it's the light, sometimes it's the noise. Sometimes it's somebody telling you a lie about your own brain. We'll find the truth. By afternoon, the center felt broken in. Sneakers squeaked on the gym floor the city donated at the last minute. The smell of yeast rolls drifted down stairwells and became memories before they were eaten. The triplets floated from room to room with lanyards that read, Junior Ambassador, in bold letters like a dare. They taught a city official how to stir grits without fighting them, and taught a tech CEO how to look a shy kid in the eyes and ask about their favorite superhero instead of their GPA. During the first break between tours, Malik found Nia outside on the small rooftop garden the architects had tucked into the design like a secret. Raised beds waited for cherry tomatoes and collards. Wind chimes sang low whenever the air shifted. She leaned against the slim railing, looking out over Auburn Avenue, her eyes on the street where she'd pushed the food truck through heat and heartbreak. Malik stood beside her without crowding. "You did this," he said, a simple, profound acknowledgement. "We did," she corrected, but her mouth curved, and they did. She tipped her head toward the glass wall where 3 small figures chased each other like stars. He nodded. "After this morning, I thought about every day I missed. The math isn't fair, Nia. I can't make up the time." "Time doesn't ask you to pay it back," she said. "It asks you to show up for the next hour." She let the breeze lift the hair at her neck and didn't look at him when she added, "You're doing that." He let himself breathe for once. No statements, no spin, just air, a shared moment of quiet understanding. "I brought something," he said, and she turned, weariness flickering before trust settled. He held out a slender binder embossed with the center's logo. Inside were budgets, schedules, a rotating roster of volunteer chefs, a transportation fund written into next year's budget. No big speeches, just proof. "I heard you. Respect looks like infrastructure." She flipped through slowly, fingers smoothing each page. "Okay," she said finally, and in that small word was a mile of road he was willing to walk. They rejoined the crowd because the day wasn't theirs alone. It belonged to the kid who'd coded his first loop, to the grandmother laughing in new glasses, to the line outside the kitchen that bent around the hall and then doubled back where no one went hungry and everyone said, "Please and thank you," because respect tastes better than salt. Near sunset, the lot out back transformed into a playground, as if someone rolled out a childhood like a rug. Swings creaked. A bright yellow slide flashed. The triplets declared the big swing was Grandma's, and Evelyn let them crown her with a paper tiara from the craft table. While she pretended to protest, they pushed her gently, squealing at the silly miracle of an elder on a swing. Her laughter, light and clear, filled the air. She threw her head back, and for a second, she was a girl. No empire in her bones, no apology on her tongue, just wind and a sky and a chorus of "higher, Grandma," like prayer. Malik and Nia sat on the bench a few feet away, the promise ring warm on Nia's finger. They didn't touch beyond shoulders brushing when they leaned in to watch the kids, but the quiet between them was not empty. It was a table set. "Remember when the whole city felt like it was watching to see if we'd fail?" he asked. She huffed a laugh. "They're still watching." "Then let's give them something worth seeing," he said, his eyes on his children, not the cameras. "Let's show them what staying looks like." Pastor Renee wandered by with a cup of lemonade and left it next to them, like a benediction, a silent blessing. Deshawn tossed Zane a football. Zoe shouted that she would be quarterback next time because equality was non-negotiable, and Zion announced the official playground rule: no sadness on Saturdays. The grown-ups agreed like it was law as twilight softened the edges of buildings, and the murals took on a glow of their own. Evelyn rose from the swing and went to the wall just inside the lobby, where they'd installed a thing she'd dreamed about, and then refused to speak aloud in case saying it ruined the magic. A photo wall, empty yesterday, filling today. She ran her fingers along the frames, Polaroids from the kitchen, selfies from the coding lab, a shot of Deshawn crowning a boy with a too big cape before he spun the chair around for a reveal. In the center hung a simple glass frame with the napkin, the actual napkin, 3 stars and a heart. The lines drawn by a 7-year-old's hand on a loud day when love rediscovered its name. People filed past and smiled without asking why that napkin was there. Some things don't need footnotes. The center closed late. Even then, clusters lingered on the sidewalk, not wanting to leave the warmth of a day that had felt like a holiday and a homecoming. When the last door was locked, they took a final slow walk through halls that hummed with the day's echoes. pots clinking as volunteers scrubbed them to shining, a keyboard abandoned mid-scale, the hush of a library nook that would be full of homework and imagination. On Monday, they turned out lights one by one, not to end the day, but to tuck it in. Back at the house Evelyn had signed over, modest, sunlit, with a porch that begged for sweet tea, Nia tucked the triplets into new beds, where the sheets still smelled like paper and promise. Zoe insisted her dimple had deepened from smiling too hard. Zane asked if the internet was fast enough to code on weekends. Zion pressed his fingers to the birthmark like a secret switch and whispered, "Grandma can see us even in the dark," just to make himself shiver happy. Nia kissed each forehead and stood in the doorway, loving them the way oceans love shorelines, forever, even when they slept. She found Evelyn in the small kitchen, fingers wrapped around a mug. No bourbon tonight, just chamomile. Malik leaned against the frame, tie long gone, shirt sleeves rolled. The look of a man learning how to be still in a place that didn't need him to be a headline, but simply present. "Thank you," Evelyn said to Nia without preface, as if the words had been waiting all evening for a quiet that honored them. "For accepting the house. For accepting me." Nia nodded. "For showing up," she replied. They didn't hug, not because love wasn't real, but because two women had built something stronger, respect with corners and rooms in it. They would hug later or not. Either way, the house knew. "Come look," Malik said and led them to the living room. Through the window, the center's mural glowed under streetlights. 3 stars and a heart. He flicked the lamp off and the room sank into a purple dusk. The mural stayed bright as if it made its own light. "When I designed the exterior lighting, I asked them to angle it so the mural throws a bit of its glow into this window, so when they wake up in the night and worry, they can see we're here." Nia swallowed hard. "Okay," she said again. She was going to wear out that word and never regret it. They didn't talk about the past that night. The past had been heard. The future could be quiet and honest if they let it. Morning came with the smell of cinnamon rolls from a kitchen that had decided it wanted to be asked for difficult things, not just simple sustenance. The first week passed in a blur of classes and sign-ups and shy kids shedding shyness like old shirts. A month melted into rhythm. The barbershop room hosted its first father-son chess night, and a mother-daughter knife skills class filled so fast they added 2 more sessions and a wait list. A senior got cataract surgery scheduled through a clinic appointment she made because she liked the way the volunteer at the desk said her name. The Code Lab released a tiny app that did one perfect thing. It sent you one kind sentence at 3:12 p.m. because a 12-year-old decided that's when school feels longest. Seasons turned like pages. Thanksgiving arrived with pies that disappeared and cranberries that didn't. Christmas hung garlands in the lobby and let the triplets argue gently about whether tinsel was a threat to the soul. Spring brought seedlings to the rooftop beds, small green fists insisting on a future. And then the first anniversary came. The banner outside was smaller this time because they didn't need to announce what the city already knew. Families filed in carrying memories. A girl who burned her first omelet but now made a perfect French fold. A boy who coded a tutor bot that whispered multiplication tables like a secret friend. A grandfather who got new glasses and suddenly spotted birds he'd forgotten had colors. The photo wall was full, picture next to picture. Smiles with missing teeth. Group shots with flour on noses. A selfie of Malik with 3 helmets behind him as he tried to ride a scooter with the triplets and failed spectacularly. Near the center hung a new addition. The triplets in tidy polos under lanyards that now read Junior Ambassador in a font they'd chosen. They stood on either side of a small plaque that read Soul and Spice Cafe because the test kitchen had grown into a cafe with 6 paid teen apprentices, a morning coffee line, and a menu that made the neighborhood proud to be hungry. Evelyn walked slowly. No cane now, unless the day was long. She stopped by the napkin frame. Time had not bleached the purple marker. Love, it turns out, is light fast. She touched the glass and then drew back because some things you don't smudge even with reverence. Nia came up behind her, wiping hands on an apron that was never just for show. Malik approached from the other side, a stack of flyers under his arm that he didn't thrust at anyone because he had learned to ask first. The triplets arrived in a flurry, the kind of chaos that makes order worth inventing. "Speech?" Zoe asked, eyes bright. "Speech," Malik confirmed, and they moved toward the stage that had seen poems and powwows and a gospel quartet that once made an atheist reach for a hand to hold. The crowd hushed before words were needed. Malik looked at Nia. She nodded. He looked at the children. They grinned. He looked at his mother. She held his gaze without flinching because sight was a gift and a discipline. "We opened this place a year ago," he said. "We thought we were building a center. Turns out we were building a city inside a building." He gestured toward the rooms beyond. A city with a kitchen at its heart and a lab at its brain and a barber shop at its mouth, telling truth without apology. Nia took the mic, simple as setting a pie to cool. "We're not finished," she said. "We're never finished. That's the point. Every day a new kid walks in hungry for something. Food, knowledge, safety, a joke. We plan, we cook, we show up. That's the recipe." Evelyn stepped forward then. No glasses to hide behind. No shield to polish until the world softened. "I used to think legacy meant your name on a building," she said. "Now I know it's your hand on a child's shoulder when the room feels too big." She lifted a palm toward the mural outside. 3 stars and a heart. "My grandbabies showed me how to see again. I intend to keep looking." Applause rose like a tide. The triplets leaned into the mic together for a final line they'd kept secret, even from each other, until rehearsal made it a chorus. "If you get lost, come find us. We've got a map." The crowd laughed and cried because that's what maps are for. The band struck up something that sounded like a hymn with a bus line, and for a while the program stopped being a program and reverted to celebration. Plates passed, stories swapped, arguments about whether raisins belong in potato salad settled decisively by the elders. No, and hugs delivered without permission slips, because consent is automatic when arms are already open and smiles say yes before mouths do. As evening folded the day into memory, the family slipped outside to the edge of the playground where the swing waited. Evelyn eased into it, and the triplets took their posts like they'd been appointed by a gentle judge. They pushed her in long, lazy arcs that matched the sun's descent. The light caught the mural and sent it skimming across the windows of the new cafe, where a small frame hung just inside the door. Not the napkin. Everyone knew where that belonged, but a photo taken the day of the fire. Edges singed, faces blurred by smoke. Someone had written on it in bold purple marker, "Still here." Malik and Nia stood close and quiet. He wanted to take her hand and did not. She wanted him to and did not ask. They were better at this now, choosing slow, knowing that speed had once wrecked them. He bumped her shoulder with his and nodded toward the swing. "Look," he said, like a man learning to say the obvious as Thanksgiving, not commentary. "I know," she answered as if she had invented gratitude. The drum line in the distance hadn't dispersed so much as softened into memory. The step team's rhythm lingering in the bones of the sidewalk. The city breathed around them. Buses huffed. Someone whistled off-key. A siren wailed down on Edgewood, tested worry, and then quit. Lights came on one window at a time like the world remembering its own constellation. "Tomorrow," Nia said, not as a burden, but as a blessing. "Tomorrow," Malik echoed. "Tomorrow," Evelyn whispered from the swing, her eyes on 3 small faces that were still somehow the first true sight of her life. And when the center's doors finally clicked shut for the night, the mural outside held its glow, casting just enough light into the little house's front window that any child waking from a bad dream could see it and remember. 3 stars and a heart. A map you can carry in your pocket. a promise that if you reach out, a hand is already reaching back. 1 year later, on the lobby wall, the photo grid had given up pretending it could contain the story. It spilled in neat rows around the corner, down the hall, and circled back to the cafe, where a sign announced, "Today's special, Zoe's Sunday Mac, Zane's Airflow Cookies, Crisp Edges, Soft Middle, Zion's Peach Lemonade, refills free if you tell a joke." Behind the counter, teen apprentices moved like a team that trusted each other, and Nia, not as a legend, but as a leader, laughed when a cookie sheet nearly slid, catching it with the same hands that had held babies in grief and now held community. The triplets, a head taller, wore new lanyards with the same old words, Junior Ambassador. Zoe's dimples announced decisions. Zane's notebook bulged with sketches for a low-cost kitchen exhaust that would work in apartments that weren't built with cooks in mind. Zion wore a tiny walkie-talkie because he said the center needed a chief of greetings and he'd been elected by acclamation. Evelyn, sight clear as a summer morning, walked that wall and paused where everyone paused. The napkin, no dust on the glass, no plaque required. Those purple lines were the beginning and the through line and the proof. Malik came up behind her and stood so close they could see each other's reflections over the faint ghost of that drawing. "Still here," he said. "Still here," she agreed. The doors swung open and another set of tired eyes looked in and softened. Another child inched toward the code lab and pretended they weren't scared. Another parent inhaled and exhaled and realized that the air inside the center felt easier somehow. The day made room for them, as it had for so many others, as it would for whoever came next. In the cafe's corner, above a table that always seemed to end up hosting first-timers, a smaller frame held a new scrap, not a napkin. That story was one of one. This was a little square of paper torn from a kid's notebook, taped there slantwise, written in block letters that leaned like they were hurrying to help. If you need something, ask. If you don't know what you need, sit. Someone will sit with you. People pointed at it and smiled without talking, because sometimes all the words have been said, and the only thing left to do is prove them. Outside, the mural lit the sidewalk. 3 stars, a heart, a map, a home. This is the end of the story, not with a dramatic flourish, but with a quiet, enduring promise. It's a testament to the enduring human spirit, the transformative power of forgiveness, and the profound truth that real legacy is built not on wealth or power, but on connection, compassion, and the unwavering commitment to community. It's a reminder that even when we stumble, even when our pasts haunt us, the courage to change, to truly see, and to rebuild can lead to a future far richer than any empire.